I spent 3 years chasing my arranged fiance, but after he moved to London, his attitude toward me suddenly did an about-face. During our online relationship, his messages grew increasingly bold. Baby, let me hear you. Just a little whisper. I want to show you what you do to me. I'd bury my face in the pillows, blushing furiously, letting out soft, quiet whimpers into the receiver. Then came his welcome back party. I was stuck in traffic and running late. Just as I was about to push the door open, Josh's cold, mocking voice drifted through the heavy oak doors of the private club. Oh, Rachel. She's way too clingy. I can barely breathe around her. Good thing I had my best bro handle the online stuff for me while I was away. She didn't suspect a thing. She's chased me since we were kids. Way too easy. There's zero thrill in it. Besides, I'm not ready to settle down yet. I froze, my hand tightening on the brass door handle. Inside the private suite, the guys burst into laughter. Damn, Josh, you're savage. But handing Rachel over to Dave, you've got some nerve. She's a sweet girl. She's no match for a guy like Dave. Josh flicked his lighter, puffing lazily on a cigarette. Relax. You know, Dave, good girls aren't his type anyway. Someone scoffed. I wouldn't be so sure about that. With a face like Rachel's, who wouldn't want to taste? She looks so pure. But her body is insane. Most guys wouldn't be able to hold back. If she were my girl, I'd be grinning from ear to ear. Remember back in high school, when those guys harassed her? You chased them off. What if? And I'm just saying, what if? Dave can't resist. Josh's brow furrowed slightly. Sensing the shift in the room, another guy quickly laughed and cut in. What are you even thinking? Hands off Rachel. Besides, her whole world revolves around Josh. Even if Dave stripped naked in front of her, she wouldn't even blink. Josh's tense expression softened. By the way, Josh, a friend asked, you had plenty of fun in Europe. What about Rachel? She is your fiance. When you were kids, you spoiled her so much. You wouldn't let anyone else date her, and you took her everywhere. Why the sudden shift? Josh looked down, ashes falling from his cigarette. Treating her like a little sister was fine, but thinking about her as my wife, I don't know. It just feels smothering. She was always so controlling. No dating, no getting too close to other girls. I'm a man, not a monk. And Rachel is always there trailing after me. It's too easy. There's no challenge. If I marry her now, I'll feel like my life is already over. I need to see what else is out there. Someone chuckled. No wonder you slept your way through London. You were starved. If Rachel finds out, she'll cry, her eyes out. Josh shot him a cold look, his voice dropping. No need to hurt her. Just keep my wild days quiet. It took every ounce of my willpower not to slam that door open and scream at Josh. Josh and I grew up together. Our families were from the same wealthy, gated community, and our parents were incredibly close. I had realized my feelings for him early on. Ever since I was a little girl, I spent my days trailing after him like a shadow. Josh never seemed to mind. He always looked out for me like an older brother. When my parents told me we were arranged to marry, my first reaction wasn't embarrassment. It was pure, unadulterated joy. Finally, he was going to be mine. But Josh's reaction was the exact opposite. He started avoiding me. His texts grew shorter. And whenever I asked to meet up, he was always too busy. Sometimes I would wait outside his house. I knew he was home, but he'd have the housekeeper come down and tell me he was out. Eventually, he fled the country to study abroad. I cried myself to sleep for days. Shortly after he landed in London, his attitude changed. He became warm and attentive, texting me constantly. Sometimes it felt like he was actively trying to seduce me. As time went on, our chats became incredibly bold. Baby just got out of the shower, only wearing a towel. Wants to see my ABS. You like it here? Want me to drop the towel a little lower? Unable to resist, my mouth dry, I would type back, yes. I want to see lower. Drop it a bit. Staring at those highly charged, sensual photos, I was completely breathless. I never knew Josh's body was so hot, so incredibly well built, and even he was exceptionally gifted. He poked me into becoming bolder. I started calling him baby, and saying dirty things I never would have dared to utter before. Occasionally the person behind the screen would ask, baby, do you know Dave? I was always a little confused. Who? Not really. Why bring him up, baby? He would stay silent for a long time before replying nothing. Once I had a severe asthma attack and collapsed in my apartment. After graduation, I had moved out to live alone. Before losing consciousness, I managed to send a desperate text to Josh's account. Not long after, I felt strong arms lifting me up. Someone was whispering in my ear, his voice frantic and shaking, but I couldn't make out the words. When I finally woke up in the hospital, a man was sitting by my bedside. His features were so strikingly handsome. He barely looked real compared to the men I knew. Josh was attractive, but this man was in a league of his own. I stared at him dazed. Seeing me open my eyes, his tense shoulders relaxed. How are you feeling? Any pain? Who are you? I rasped. He paused, then replied quietly, Dave. My name is Dave. Asked how he knew I was in trouble. He explained that Josh had called him and asked him to check on me. I believed him. I didn't cry any further and sincerely thanked him. From that day on, Dave showed up constantly under the guise of Josh's concern. He cooked my meals and cleaned my place. He was an incredible cook. Every time I tried to politely ask him to leave, he would stuff my mouth with delicious food. Eventually, I gathered enough resolve to say, you don't need to keep coming over. I can take care of myself. Dave only smiled. Josh is terrified you'll get hurt. He asked me to look after you. I felt a blush creep up my neck. He really said that? Yeah. Ask him yourself if you don't believe me. I immediately texted Josh's account to double check. The reply came instantly, yes. I asked him to. You live alone and have asthma. I can't rest easy, so let him watch over you. I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. I had intended to keep things strictly platonic and distant with Dave. Until last night. A massive storm was raging outside. Worried about him driving back in the torrential rain, I insisted he stay the night in my guest room. Late that night, I got up to get a glass of water as I walked past Dave's room. I noticed the door wasn't fully closed. I went to shut it quietly, but the sight inside pinned me to the spot. He was holding a pair of my white lace panties. They were the ones I had lost a week ago and couldn't find anywhere. Dave's eyes were tightly shut, his head tilted back. His throat bobbed as he let out low, repressed whimpers. He was holding the lace as if it were my hand, using it to touch himself, doing the very things he was too afraid to ask of me. I stood frozen behind the door, my heart hammering against my ribs. That was the moment I realized Dave had feelings for me. But since he was Josh's best friend, I didn't want to cause a scene. In the end, I pretended I hadn't seen anything. Today at the welcome back dinner, I had planned to pull Josh aside, tell him about Dave's behavior, and ask him to keep Dave away from me. I never expected to hear the truth. Standing outside that door, my eyes stung. I thought Josh had changed for the better while he was away. I had no idea he found me so annoying that he threw his account to Dave, letting another man play with my feelings. From start to finish, the two of them had conspired to make a fool out of me. I wiped my tears, refusing to let them fall, and walked back to my empty apartment. When I opened the door, I saw Dave in the kitchen, his sleeves rolled up and washing my underwear. The memory of last night flashed in my mind. My head throbbed. I marched over and snatched the lace panties out of his hands. I told you to just throw them in the washing machine. Dave looked at me, his gaze gentle and persuasive. The machine doesn't clean them properly. Let me do it. I can wash my own clothes. Be good, Rachel. I do a better job. The words "I have a fiance, this isn't right" hovered on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed them down. Fiance? Did Josh even count anymore? He had practically handed me over to Dave to play with. A bitter wave washed over me. Because of my engagement, I had spent years being incredibly careful. I kept a strict distance from any other man. Even when Dave came to look after me, I never crossed the line. I never wore my revealing silk slips around him. I timed my shower, so he wouldn't be near the bathroom. I maintained a careful 3-foot bubble around myself. Yet Josh thought I was too easy, boring. He wanted to sleep around with all kinds of women, to figure out what he liked. If he could play, why couldn't I? To be fair, Dave was gorgeous and attentive. His family's influence was even greater than Josh's. Playing with him wasn't a loss at all. I tossed the panties back into the basin. Fine, wash them. Since you love doing this so much, you can handle them from now on. Dave paused, looking up at me in pleasant surprise, as if he had just received a massive reward. Are you serious? I smiled. Of course you're doing me a favor. I should be thanking you. I'm going upstairs to change into a nightgown. Wash whatever I leave behind. Okay? Dave's throat bobbed. He let out a low, breathless laugh. With pleasure. I peeled off my restrictive clothes and slipped into a loose, comfortable nightgown. In the past, whenever Dave was over, I'd wear conservative, stifling outfits, making sure everything was properly buttoned up. Now I didn't care anymore. At dinner, Dave laid out a feast of my favorite dishes. I kept my head down, eating quietly. Dave reached over with a napkin, naturally wiping a smudge of sauce from the corner of my mouth. Rachel, can I stay here tonight? I looked up, meeting his eyes. He quickly explained, you've had 2 asthma attacks this month. I'm really worried about you being alone. Before today, I would have rejected him without a second thought. But today was different. I swallowed my food and said, they have been happening more often lately. I've been a bit anxious too. It would make me feel a lot better if you stayed. Dave smiled, a dark, possessive spark flaring in his eyes. Later that night, while he was in the shower. I took the opportunity to unlock his phone. I found his chat history with Josh. Josh, where are you, Dave? At Rachel's house.
Josh.
What the hell are you doing there?
Dave.
Her asthma has been acting up. I don't feel safe leaving her alone. Josh, fine. But let me remind you, I asked you to watch her. Not cross the line, Dave. You don't want to marry her anyway. What's the matter? Had your fun abroad, and now you want to come back to your old toy, Dave. Aren't you afraid she'll find out, Josh? My business with her is none of your concern, Josh. Besides, Rachel is so clingy. She can't survive without me. Even if she finds out, a few sweet words, and she'll be wagging her tail right back to me. I can't shake her off, even if I try. I stared at those words for a long time. My chest ached, but I forced the tears back. He wasn't worth a single tear. 10 minutes later, the bathroom door opened. I took a deep breath, locked the screen, and placed his phone exactly where I found it that night. I took a shower and changed into a sultry deep red silk slip dress. It was short, barely covering the curve of my thighs, with a plunging neckline. My friend had bought it for me, teasing that my body was too good to waste on flannel pajamas. I had left it in the back of my closet with the tag still on. Sun tonight.
I tore det tax off.
I didn't dry my hair. Water droplets slid down my collarbone, dampening the silk over my chest. Wet fabric clung to my curves. I walked out barefoot. Dave was sitting on the couch drying his hair. When he looked up and saw me, his movements froze. It was only for a split second before he looked away. But I caught the heavy rise and fall of his chest, throat convulsed. Pretending not to notice, I walked into my bedroom, leaving the door open and curled up in the armchair. The hem of my dress rode up, exposing the smooth length of my thighs. I snapped a photo of myself and sent it to Josh's, no, Dave's account. Baby just got out of the shower, only wearing the slip. Every affectionate text for the past 3 years, every good morning, every comforting word after she cried, every late-night conversation, they had all come from Dave, not Josh. The next morning, Rachel arrived at the family breakfast where both families had gathered to celebrate Josh's return. Josh walked over with his usual effortless smile. Rachel. For the first time since childhood, she didn't smile back. His smile faltered. You didn't answer my messages. I've been busy. The simple, distant tone made everyone at the table look up. Josh frowned. You've never been too busy for me. Rachel met his eyes calmly. People change. Across the room, Dave remained silent, his expression unreadable, though his fingers tightened around the coffee cup in his hand. Josh noticed. His gaze shifted between them. Something felt different. For the first time, Rachel wasn't looking at him with admiration. For the first time, she wasn't chasing after him. And for reasons he couldn't explain, that bothered him far more than he expected. He suddenly had the unsettling feeling that he'd just lost something he'd always assumed would wait for him forever. Rachel's words echoed through the dining room. People change. The silence that followed was deafening. Josh forced out a laugh, trying to brush it off. What's with the attitude? Are you mad because I didn't answer a few messages after I landed? Rachel calmly buttered a piece of toast. No. Then what is it? She looked up at him, her expression so composed that it unsettled him. I just realized I've been chasing someone who is never running toward me. Josh's smile disappeared. Their parents exchanged confused glances. Rachel's mother frowned. What happened between you two? Nothing, Rachel answered smoothly. I was just thinking. She wasn't ready to expose Josh. Not yet. She wanted him to walk willingly into the trap he'd built himself. After breakfast, Josh cornered Dave in the garden. What did you say to her? Dave was watering one of Mrs. Carter's rose bushes. Nothing. Don't lie to me. Dave finally looked at him. For once, I'm not. Josh rubbed a hand through his hair. She's acting strange. Dave's voice was calm. Maybe she's tired of waiting. Josh scoffed. Rachel? Impossible. You're very confident. I know her. Dave's eyes lingered on Josh for a long moment. No. His voice was almost pitying. You know the version of Rachel who loved you. Josh frowned. What does that mean? It means people eventually stop accepting what hurts them. Dave walked away before Josh could answer. That afternoon, Rachel received a call from her mother. Your engagement banquet is only 3 weeks away. Your father and Josh's parents want to finalize the guest list. Rachel stared out the apartment window. Mom. Yes. I don't think I want to get married anymore. The other end of the line went completely silent. What? I've thought about it carefully, but you've loved Josh since you were little. I know. Rachel smiled sadly. And that's exactly why I need to stop. The news spread through both families faster than wildfire. By evening, Josh was pounding on Rachel's apartment door. She opened it without hesitation. He stormed inside. What nonsense are you telling our parents? I'm canceling the engagement. No. His answer came immediately. You don't get to decide that because you're throwing a tantrum. Rachel laughed softly. For years, that sentence would have crushed her. Now, it sounded ridiculous. I'm not asking your permission. Josh stared at her. She wasn't crying. She wasn't pleading. She wasn't apologizing. It felt as though she had become a completely different person overnight. His chest tightened with an emotion he couldn't name. Before he could speak again, another voice came from the kitchen. Rachel. Dave stepped out carrying 2 mugs of tea. He stopped when he saw Josh. So you're here. Josh's eyes dropped to the mugs. 2 mugs. One obviously belonged to Rachel. The other, his expression darkened. What are you doing in her apartment? Dave answered without flinching. The same thing I've been doing for the last 3 years. Josh's pupils narrowed. What does that mean? For the first time since they were teenagers, the 2 friends stood facing each other, not as allies, but as rivals. And Rachel realized something that surprised even her. She wasn't afraid of what came next. She was simply done letting other people decide her future. Josh let out a short, incredulous laugh. The same thing you've been doing for 3 years? What exactly is that supposed to mean? Dave set the mugs down on the coffee table with deliberate calm, looking after her. I asked you to keep an eye on her, Josh snapped. Not make yourself at home. And yet, Dave replied evenly, you never once asked how she was actually doing. The apartment fell silent. Rachel watched the 2 men, without saying a word. For years, she would have rushed to ease Josh's anger. Today, she simply waited. Josh turned to her. Rachel, tell him to leave. She folded her arms. This is my apartment. So if anyone decides who stays or goes, it's me. Josh blinked. You've never spoken to me like this. Rachel smiled faintly. I know. That smile unsettled him far more than tears ever could. Josh took a slow breath, forcing himself to calm down. Fine, let's talk. He looked directly at Rachel. If I've done something that upset you, tell me. She studied him for several seconds. Would you really want the truth? Of course. Rachel reached into her pocket and unlocked her phone. I heard everything. Josh's expression froze. The club. His voice caught. You were there? I arrived just before you started talking. Every word landed like a stone. She's too clingy. She's too easy. She's like a little sister. I need to see what else is out there. Rachel looked him straight in the eye. You don't have to deny it. I heard every single word. Josh's face drained of color. For the first time since they'd met as children, he had no excuse ready. It doesn't matter anymore. It does matter. His voice came out louder than he intended. I didn't mean for you to hear it like that. Rachel gave a quiet, almost amused laugh. Is there a better way to hear that the man you've loved since childhood never respected you? Josh opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Dave remained silent, but his hands curled into fists. He had heard Josh say cruel things before. Hearing Rachel repeat them aloud made them sound even worse. Josh finally managed. Rachel, I know I messed up. You did. I can fix this. She shook her head. No. Just give me a chance. I gave you years. The words were soft. That made them hurt even more. I waited outside your house. I defended you whenever people criticized you. I rearranged my life around yours. And all that time, she looked at him sadly. You were embarrassed by me. Josh felt as if someone had knocked the air from his lungs. He had never imagined Rachel would stop loving him. He had simply assumed she always would. His phone buzzed. It was a message from his mother. Your father and Rachel's parents have agreed to postpone discussing the engagement until everyone calms down. Josh stared at the screen. Postpone. Not because Rachel was upset. Because Rachel herself had asked to cancel it. For the first time, he realized the future he'd always taken for granted was no longer waiting for him. And across the room, Rachel quietly picked up her mug of tea. She didn't even look at him. That hurt more than any argument ever could. Josh left without another word. The apartment door closed behind him with a quiet click. Neither Rachel nor Dave spoke for several moments. Finally, Dave broke the silence. Are you all right? Rachel let out a slow breath. I don't know. She looked down at the tea in her hands. I thought hearing the truth would make me angry. And it just made me tired. Dave's gaze softened. You don't have to pretend to be strong. Rachel looked up at him. For years, I built my whole future around one person. She laughed bitterly. I don't even know what I like anymore. Every decision I made was because of Josh. Dave wanted to reach for her hand. Instead, he kept both of his own firmly at his sides. You can figure that out now. She noticed the restraint. It would have been so easy for him to comfort her. Instead, he respected the space she needed. For the first time, she saw not the man who had always hovered in the background, but someone patiently waiting for her to make her own choices. Thank you, she said quietly. Meanwhile, Josh drove aimlessly through the city.
His phone rang.
It was one of the friends from the club. So, did you smooth things over? Josh didn't answer. She really wants to cancel the engagement? She does. His friend whistled. I thought she'd forgive you in a day. So did I. Those 3 words surprised even Josh. He had never imagined Rachel could truly walk away. He replayed every moment from breakfast. She hadn't argued. She hadn't cried. She hadn't begged. She had simply stopped reaching for him. The realization left an uncomfortable weight in his chest. The following afternoon, both families gathered at Rachel's parents' estate. The atmosphere was tense. Josh's father cleared his throat. The engagement was arranged years ago. Surely, this is just a misunderstanding. Rachel stood. No. Everyone turned toward her. She had dressed simply, without the jewelry Josh had once given her. I've thought about this carefully. Her father frowned. Rachel. She gently interrupted him. I agreed because I believed we wanted the same future. She looked at Josh. I know now that we don't. Josh finally spoke. I was immature. You were. I can change. I hope you do. Those words sounded encouraging, but the next sentence shattered his hope. I just don't think you should change for me. Silence settled over the room. Rachel reached into her handbag and placed a small velvet box on the table. Inside was the engagement ring. I don't want to wear this anymore. Josh stared at it. He remembered slipping that ring onto her finger years ago. She had smiled so brightly that day. Now she pushed it back toward him without hesitation. His fingers hovered over the box, but he couldn't bring himself to pick it up. For the first time in his life, he understood something he had never considered before. Love wasn't guaranteed simply because someone had loved you yesterday. And once trust was broken, it wasn't something you could demand back. It had to be earned, if it could be earned at all.